Hi, and welcome to another episode of All Things Considered. Today I'm talking about the primaries in the Seattle City Council elections. Today is Tuesday, and today is the primaries. And it's this article that I came across begs the question: who's going to win Tuesday's Seattle City Council primary? And to be honest with you, I'm not really sure. I've done some digging and I've listened to a few people, and I've tried to write letters to the city council to get a beat on what they're about and how they're trying to fix Seattle, and how they're just making it seem like they're trying to fix Seattle while taking the money and running. It says here, there is no question that this year's Seattle City Council elections have generated a lot of interest. Millions of dollars are pouring into campaigns, and 55 people are vying for a chance to sit on Seattle's top legislative body. But what is actually going to happen come Tuesday night? When we see the first primary election vote tallies come in for the 7 city council seats up for grabs. Municipal elections are notoriously hard to predict. Unlike congressional or presidential races, there's no public polling data. And with the total votes in many of these council district primaries expected to be less than 20,000, the vote margins between the second and third place finishers could be a razor-thin election. Does anybody really have any idea what's up with this election and how it's going to play out? We decided to ask, reaching out to political consultants and observers to see what people supposedly in the know think about this racist primary election, and who they believe is going to come out on top when 55 candidates get windowed down to 14. Think of this as the X Factor or America's Got Talent. You have a lot of really great people out there thinking they've got great talent and they can make it to Hollywood, and they could go on to win that golden buzzer. And then you find out that it's not as easy as you thought. Yeah, it looks cool on the outside when you're trying to run for mayor or trying to run for city council, when you don't understand the day-to-day inner workings. See, what I think they should do, and then this is just me personally, I believe that the City Council of Seattle and other cities in the United States should have a day where children in school, kids in grade school and maybe high school, they get a chance to go and sit through a whole day of City Council. They get to choose which City Council member they'd like to sit in on, and they get a chance to see the inner workings of the day-to-day workings of the city council, so you know what you're going to get involved in before you start wanting to run as an older adult for city council. It's not all just meet and greets and fancy cars and details, and you got security guards protecting you, and you get paid by the city, and it's a prestigious job. But there's a lot of hard work involved when you got a city to take care of. You got to balance out the rich, the middle class, you got to balance out the minimum wage, and then you got to balance out the poor and the homeless. That's 4 things you got to balance out. You can't just work for the rich. You can't just work for the middle class. You can't forget about the minimum wage, and you definitely cannot forget about the poor and the homeless, because they have every right to be in the city of Seattle, just like the ones that are making buku bucks. I don't think you should have to be rich to enjoy Seattle. When I lived there in the 1990s, anybody could go to Seattle, get an apartment, and enjoy the city. There was something for everybody. You didn't have to be ultra rich to have an ultra rich lifestyle. You know, I used to go to the Space Needle and have lunch. I'd get on the monorail, I'd take the monorail over to the Space Needle, and then I'd go up, have my dinner, and then I'd come down and go back to the Pike Place Market, and I'd go back to working at the art gallery there on the below second level. Yeah, I mean, and I would walk. There was a lot of times I lived up in Capitol Hill. I'd walk to downtown, and it was great. It was great. You didn't really know that there was any problems happening. Of course, you knew about the homelessness because it was a problem, but it was a curbable problem. And the drug addicts didn't start to get bad until the late 90s, early 2000s, when they offered a free needle exchange program. Now, it says that the 7 city council seats, they're up for grabs, and there's a lot of people trying to get them. Municipal elections are notoriously hard to predict. Unlike congressional or presidential races, there's no public polling data. And with total votes in many of these council district primaries expected to be less than 20,000, the vote margins between the second and third place finishers could be razor thin. Does anybody really have any idea what's up with this election and how it's going to play out? They decided to ask people. Here's what they said. Michael Maddox, former city council candidate and staffer for council member Teresa Masquati, current political organizer, had to say, "This election has been markedly different in its vitriol, in particular. The shady Moms for Seattle PAC and the mayor's red baiting in District 2 and Tim Burgess's racist and sexist hit pieces in 2015 and Tim Burgess's racist and sexist hit pieces. In 2015, those of us running talked about what we were for." Now, I'm going to kind of interject here. Back in 2000, I believe it was, Jesse Ventura decided to run for governor of the state of Minnesota. While everybody else was talking about how bad each person was, Jesse Ventura did a very fun campaign. He didn't point any fingers. He didn't say what the other guy wasn't doing. Look, if you're going to have me vote for you, tell me what you're going to do for me. I don't care what they're not going to do for me. I'm not voting for them. You want me to vote for you? You make it about me and you. You make it about me and you and I, you and I. You tell me what you can do for me. You tell me what you're going to do for me if you want me to vote for you. If you can't do nothing for me, just tell me that. Just say, hey, I don't know exactly what I'm going to get done. These are the things I would like to get done, but I have the slightest idea if the city council as a whole is going to let me get these done. That would be a lot better than telling me a bunch of hogwash and then I find out that you can't get none of it done. It says here, in 2015, those of us running talked about where we were going and what we wanted to do and what we stood for. And so much of this year has been marked with what people are against, notably opposition to fair taxes, to fund services that will actually get people out of tents and into permanent housing. District 1, Lisa Herbold and Phil Tavel. District 2, Tammy Morales and either Mark Solomon or Ari Hoffman. District 3, Kashima Swan and either Logan Bowers or Pat Murakami. 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 District 4, Alex Peterson and Emmy Myers, maybe Kathy Tuttle. District 5, Deborah Juarez, John Lombard, possibly Ann Davison Sadler. District 6, Heidi Willis and either Dan Strauss or Jay Fahey. District 7, Andrew Lewis and either Jim Pugel or Michael George. Now, Christian Sinderman, a consultant, Northwest Passage consultant, he said, an unintimidated consequence of the democracy voucher program that is more external than internal is the loss of messaging control. Because of the very, very, very low $75,000 spending cap, candidates are dedicating the majority of their resources to staff and outreach, and very little for paid communications when ballots are out and voters are actually paying attention. This gives outside powers to independent expenditures who can spend unlimited amounts of money, and of course candidates can neither control nor coordinate on how or what messages are communicated. It is really too late. if not impossible, to catch up to the amount spent on behalf of other candidates. And that's what I don't understand, is why you have to spend so much freaking money. Why can't you just go on and run and do it on your goodwill and good graces and get the city behind you? Why do you have to have shitloads of money to be, like president? You got to have shitloads of money to become president. There's probably people out there that are way better than anybody that's ever got elected, but they don't have the money, so nobody's going to take them serious. Heather Weiner, consultant, strategic communications. We're seeing across the country that the Republicans are using urban areas as the illustration for what's wrong with liberals, progressivism, and Democrats. Our own politicians, the mayor, or these independent expenditures are buying into that narrative, and that is dividing our Seattle. This race is crowded. It's not going to be about who's the front runner. It's going to be who's in second place. D1, Lisa Herbold. D2, Tammy Morales. D3, Kash Masawant. D4, Alex Peterson. D5, Deborah Juarez. D6, Heidi Wills or Jay Fahey. D7, Jim Pugel or Andrew Lewis. I think this year is different because it is the first. Hannah Brooks, Olson writer, campaign director, and organizer, said, I think this year is different because it's the first substantial local election cycle after the big post-2016 push. The messaging after 2016 was focused on people getting involved and running. The local Democratic Party and the legislative districts ramped up their recruitment efforts. Coupled with programs like IDF and Emerge, we have a ton of people who have been training for this for years. And now the seats are open and they're jumping in. Just as we saw a lot of folks jumping into the race for mayor. I think we're going to continue to see really long ballots for the next couple of years. Call it the Trump effect or whatever, but I think after 2016, a lot of folks realized that they had not been that involved in politics and they saw things going in a direction they didn't like. Yeah, that's true. You see a lot of stuff going in a direction you don't think should be going, and you decide you can fix it. Like Jesse Ventura, again, being the governor of Minnesota. Back when he became the mayor of Brooklyn Center, he said to the city council, this needs to be fixed. The city council wasn't fixing it, so Jesse Ventura ran for mayor, became mayor, and got it fixed. Sometimes that can happen. Sometimes you see things that are bad and you want to fix them. Like, I'm going to keep track of what's going on between now and 2025. Because if things don't shape up and ship out, or things don't shape up and turn right, straighten up and fly right, I'm going to run for mayor of Seattle and I will fix it myself. I know what the problem is and I know how to fix it. And I can't be bought because I live on $771 a month, man. I don't need any money. I mean, I don't have a big nightlife. I don't go out to parties. I don't go chasing women. I don't drink booze or get high. I'm just me, caring about the city of Seattle. And other big factors, I think, is that there's a lot of upset and frustration about the perceived lack of action in City Hall, at the council level, and in other outlying cities. Folks are seeing things they don't like, chiefly homelessness, but also housing prices, property tax increases, traffic, whatever you want. There's a problem with it. And that's making them want to do more than just comment on Facebook. Though Lord knows there's plenty of that too. The reason for this discomfort, of course, are many. Not enough housing to support the city's growth. Tax systems, and that does not bring in enough revenue, but the revenue it does bring in comes from the lowest earners. Yeah, because Jeff Bezos of Amazon and all you other fuckheads out there, you don't want to help. Now, I give Bill Gates a huge pass. Back in the 90s when Microsoft was getting off the ground, Bill Gates knew the importance of keeping the city happy. When they needed an upgrade on their library system, he helped upgrade it. He brought in brand new computers, he put in internet service, and he donated that to the city. When a lot of people say, oh, what was that? Well, that was a big deal. That was to help move people into the tech age. Honestly, it's like reading tea leaves at this point, they said. Two people can tell you what they think matters the most and then give you completely different answers as to what they think will solve the problem. Alex Hudson, Executive Director of the Transportation Choice Coalition, the notable pattern in this year's primary is that there is no pattern. Candidates are abundant and varied crew. Political insiders, newcomers, single-issue folks, and generalists. Haters and uniters. Democracy vouchers have allowed a new group of candidates to participate, and yet it feels like a heated civic dialogue. Make the job harder to recruit for. We've got issues like transportation, housing, and homelessness to work on and basic city services to deliver. It can sometimes feel like our city is stuck between a rock and a hard place on these things, so whoever wins is going to need a jackhammer. As for predictions, I go out of that game on November 9th, 2016. On November 9th, 2016? Oh, you're saying 2019, okay. Lyle Johnson, consultant with Prism Washington, working with candidate Tammy Morales. Of course you are. It definitely feels different than 2017. That was the first time people were using democracy vouchers, and I think they still are new to people. The voucher system is great because it allows people to not just need financial capital to run, with social capital can still raise enough money to run a valid campaign. And they're saying if you don't have money, your campaign's not valid. Go figure. The thing I see different this year, obviously, there seems to be a bit more vitriol. It seems get a little nastier. The people are getting a little nastier because the lines are drawn more in terms of homelessness issues and with corporations throwing money in. Corporate wants everything to be considered but the city of Seattle. Corporate wants everything to go their way because they want corporate, Amazon, Facebook, Apple that's coming in and all that. They want to be protected, job security. Let's see here. It's easier to see what the corporations are doing in terms of where they are, where their intentions lie. After 2016, I hate predictions, but I'm very confident that my client, Tammy Morales, is going to win in District 2. That's what he said. Woohoo. Woohoo. Oh well. District 1 is obviously going to be Herbold and Tabel. District 3, I think, is going to be Swan and DeWolf. District 4, Sean Scott is a good friend. I really hope he makes it through. It's going to depend on how the ground game comes through. It's going to be Peterson versus either Scott or Myers. District 5 is going to be Juarez. He says District 6 is so diluted I can't make any predictions. District 7, it looks like it's going to be Michael George, which is weird because remember the singer that came out with the song called I Want Your Sex or something like that back in the 80s? His name was George Michael. This guy's name is Michael George. Anyway, the list goes on, and I can't do all of this. Well, maybe I can. Let me finish this up. It says here, David Goldie Goldstein, former Stranger writer, current fellow at Civic Ventures. And the 2019 is very different. It's not that it's negative. There's been negative stuff before. It's the Trumpist tone of the negative attacks. And the positive stuff, really, what people on the right are running on and the amount of money and independent expenditures. It's a coordinated, organized campaign for the business of community that has no qualms about exploiting the crazy white ring safe Seattle hate stalkers. Oh, that's let me read that again. It's a coordinated, organized campaign from the business of communities that has no qualms about exploiting the crazy the crazy right-wing safe Seattle hate talkers if that works to their advantage. The other thing that I've seen, and it's never been this much money in the primary. Never brought that much money into the primary before. The mailers that are coming are they more dishonest than usual? Maybe. There have been some dishonest ones in the past, but photoshopping tents and garbage into playgrounds, I've never seen that before. It's like, I lived in Los Angeles when the Rodney King riots happened. And yes, it was bad. Yes, there were areas that were burning. But the news made it look like every single neighborhood was up in flames. Every single person was fighting each other. Blacks against whites, whites against blacks. Blacks being upset because of the verdict that came out. And I don't blame them. I was pissed off too. I had a friend that I used to hang out with when I lived in Los Angeles. We were sitting in lawn chairs on Hollywood Boulevard up by Vine Street. And we were, well, it was right up the street from Vine. A couple blocks up the way from Vine on the Hollywood Boulevard. And we were sitting there watching people run by with items they had stolen from stores. And one guy stopped and he says, "You guys sitting there together?" And I looked at him and he looked at me and he said, "No, there's miles apart between us." And he kind of laughed as we drank our Pepsis. He was black and I was white, but we didn't notice that because we were good friends. We enjoyed each other's company, and we'd go to Sizzler Steakhouse once in a while and have dinner, and it was great. So we couldn't understand why the city was in such turmoil, except for the fact that they were fed up with being fed up. And here it says that the mailers that are coming, they're the most dishonest. The other thing that is different is democracy vouchers. It's both good and bad. It created space for all of this IE spending. Because when you cap what you can give to campaigns, that money is going to go somewhere, and it's going to go to less accountable, independent expenditure campaigns. Because what you're seeing with moms and people for Seattle is that they will go places where a campaign will not go because you can't hold them accountable for it. They'll smear. These people will smear and rub your nose in it like if you were a dog that just pooped on the floor and your owner grabbed you by the nose and smeared your nose in it. That's what these people will do with that extra money because they're in it to win it. It says here that will go places where campaigns won't because they can't be held accountable. You can't hold them accountable for things like the misappropriation of Police Chief Carmen Best. D1, it's Lisa and Tabel. D2, Morales and Solomon. D3, Kashima will get through. I have no idea what number 2 will be. D4, Alex Peterson will get through. If you had asked me in May, I would have said Sean Scott would get through. But I think the business community helped Emily by equating her to Kashima. They give permission to the DSA workers or the voters to vote for Emily. They have given permission to the DSA voters to vote for Emily, which what I'm saying is that by giving permission to the DSA workers to vote for Emily, you're basically saying, we want you to vote for Emily. We're not asking you to vote for Emily. We're telling you to vote for Emily without coming right out and saying that. District 5, Juarez. 6, Fahey is the one candidate who has business and labor support, so I would think most likely it would be Fahey and Willis. If Dan gets through the Strangers endorsement, did it. D7, boy, what terrible candidate recruitments. I think it's going to be Andrew Lewis and Jim Pugel. What do you think, Seattle? Do you think it's going to be any of these people? Maybe it's going to be somebody different. Maybe it's going to be none of them. Maybe we'll get surprised. I'll let you know later in the evening. If you have an idea for a video you want to put, you want me to do, put it in the comments. If you have anything to add, put it in the comments. If you think I should get off the stage, put it in the comments and tell me why. If you liked what I do, please like and subscribe, because I'm trying to do this in a better way every time I do this. I'm getting more comfortable behind my camera, and it's in us communications, you and I, making this whole thing work. We live here. This is our home. Let's make it the best home we got. This has been All Things Considered. Have a good night, Seattle, and all points beyond.